So this story came across my timeline, not a particular surprise, but I think it speaks to the fact that up and down the West Coast, it is policy failure, certainly, that has led to the homeless crisis being so bad. But it is also this endless thirst from non-government entities to continue to get your money that keeps people living in filth and squalor and despair. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that. Okay, this story came across my timeline from KGW in Portland. Homelessness spending at all levels, federal down to local, topped $700 million for the Portland metro area in the 2023-2024 fiscal year, a newly released report found. You guys, Portland's not even a major city. Like, it's a big city, but it's not the biggest. $700 million in taxpayer funds? Almost $1 billion to deal with the homelessness crisis? Because that's how bad it's gotten. And you know where this is going because you know eventually I'm going to tell you, I'll just ruin the surprise now, that despite that spending, homelessness is worse, okay? But let me get there step by step, okay? And this is what I'm going to talk about in Portland. It's true for Washington State. It's true for Seattle. It's true for San Francisco. It's true for LA. It's true for the rest of California as well. There's a reason for that. So this report from Eco Northwest, a study done, looked at all the spending and the results of it, etc. $724 million in total expenditures on literal and imminent risk homelessness in Tri-County Portland in fiscal year 2024. So that means like trying to prevent people from falling into homelessness, like if you rental voucher or something to prevent somebody from becoming homeless. So that includes that kind of money as well. All right, where is that compared to 2023? So 2022 to 2023? They spent $531 million in 1 year. 1 year difference. $200 million. They spent $200 million more in fiscal year 2024 than in fiscal year 2023 when they spent $531 million. That is insane. That is insane. What do we get for that? Well, let's look into here. I think it's when you want to talk about this study and sort of what we're going to learn from it. And gosh, maybe this is a study that's finally looking into, hey, here's how much we're spending and here's the results. And, we'll show you the data and you can make a decision for yourself. But clearly that's not good. So we're thinking, okay, like, what does that tell us? This is a literal note in the study. Total expenditure amounts should not be compared across years due to differences and improvements in reporting and analysis. So the people who did this study literally didn't want people like me to read the two numbers I read you and make some sort of assumption about it. Well, I hate to break your heart, Eco Northwest. I'm going to make an assumption about it. And it's not really an assumption because it's based on years and years and years of these cities spending more money only to have more people be homeless. So like baked into the study is this line that they don't want us to glean anything from this information. If you don't want us to glean anything from this information, why did you do a study? Isn't the purpose of studies to get us to have data and information that we can then learn and glean things from? They don't want that, right? Crazy. So as you guessed, this is from Axios Portland. This is from 2023. Homelessness in Oregon hits record high in 2023. So it says Oregon had the highest percentage of unsheltered, unaccompanied youth experiencing homelessness in January 2023. That statistic increased by about 1/3 between 2022 and 2023. So here, article from 2023, they're explaining not only was there a jump in 2022 to 2023, but 2023 had record levels of homelessness. It said the state saw the second highest total percentage of people experiencing homelessness who were unsheltered. So in the 2023 numbers, they were estimating there was around 13,000 to 20,000 homeless residents in 2023, okay? That's a big gap, by the way. That's the best guess you can give us. 13,000 to 20,000. So that's already pretty bad, right? Let's jump ahead to 2024. This is from Oregon Capital Chronicle based on their latest counts there. The Department of Housing and Urban Development's annual point-in-time count conducted in January 2024 found 22,875 people experiencing homelessness. So even if we were to assume that in 2023, the actual number of homeless was the high end, because they estimated 13,000 to 20,000. So let's just say it was 20,000. A year later, you have at least 3,000 more homeless, could be as much as 13,000 more homeless, and you're spending $200 million additional dollars in that time frame. So spending more money for more people to be homeless. Okay? I know the report said don't glean anything from that. Don't make any assumptions, but you do what you want. Here is something fascinating. So Kevin Dahlgren, who works with the homeless population down in Portland, this study comes out, and you can kind of do the math in your head when you hear those numbers, right? Wait a second. They're spending $700 million. There's about 22,000 people who are homeless. Man, that's a lot of money per homeless person. Kevin Dahlgren thought so too. So he decided to go out, find a homeless dude, and ask him about it.
Social services spent $97,000 per homeless person to get you guys off the streets. 97,000. Yeah.
That can't be true because there's more and more people becoming homeless on the streets.
Yes, homelessness increased over the last year.
Yeah, I know. I see new faces almost every other day.
So then where the hell's the money going?
Honestly, I heard something last year. They said last year, maybe 1 to 2 mil came up missing, and I don't think $1 to $2 million comes up missing. Somebody took that shit, and they say we're the problem, but yet they want to take away our resources to help fix the problem. But that doesn't make any damn sense.
And that's an obscenely high number per homeless person, which means $97,000 was applied to helping you off the streets.
No, they don't give a shit about us.
So how much money do you think was spent on you in the last year?
Zero. None. I mean, well, okay, maybe $50 on some, burgers and hot dogs that they came and, gave us in the park. Other than that, none.
Is there a better video that exists about the homeless crisis anywhere on the internet? I challenge you to find it. For those of you who listen to the podcast today, you see his brain trying to come to terms with the fact that around $90,000 technically should be allotted to help get him off the streets. And the math isn't mathing. Besides some burgers and hot dogs, no one's helped him with anything. He's actually a pretty smart, articulate guy. I'm sure clearly he has some issues that have led him into that situation. And then he says, Kevin Dahlgren tells him, and homelessness got worse, by the way. He says, I know. I don't need you to tell me that. I see new faces on the street every day, he says. And yet we have politicians who can't seem to grasp this reality. I mean, remember when we broke the news that Governor Jay Inslee had launched this right-of-way initiative where he was going to go clean up all the tents along I-5, and we did the math, boop, 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 and found out they were spending like $1 million per person to get them out of homelessness? So the money's not going to him. It's not going to help him get off the streets. Where's it going? It's padding the pockets of the government bureaucracy and the nonprofit that is made up of Democrats, cronies, and allies. $700 million worth of it. For the homeless crisis to only get worse. I saw this post over the weekend from Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington. And at first I read it and I thought, well, I disagree with that. But now reading it with all of this context, I agree with it quite a bit. She said, homelessness is a policy failure, not a personal failure or crime. And usually I'd say, well, no, I mean, people are on the streets because they're addicted to drugs or they have a mental illness or something. But you know what? At this point, homelessness continuing to get worse is a policy failure. And you know what, Congresswoman? It's your policy failure. It's the policy failure of your fellow progressives and Democrats who continue to take a hands-off approach to substance abuse, who continue to take a hands-off approach to getting people out of dangerous encampments and into a place where they will actually get help for the underlying reason that they're homeless. And it's a policy failure because it prioritizes and suggests that their ability to tackle this issue is directly related to the amount of money that you're willing to give them. And it's not. The amount of money they spend on homelessness has zero correlation with the ability to actually solve homelessness. If anything, it's inverted. The more money you spend, the worse the crisis gets. Because the government and the nonprofits that are taking in that $700 million a year for just one American city, they will do anything they can do to keep that money coming in. And the only way in this instance to keep the money coming in is to make sure that the problem continues to get worse. And if you do not see that by now, if you do not believe that the homeless industrial complex is a real thing, then the only assumption that I can make is you are content with people living on the streets in filth and squalor and dying in the throes of addiction. And that is shameful. That segment was brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Go there, make sure you sign up for their newsletter to be alerted to opportunities to do just that.